Manus has been taking the whole world by storm. If you don't know, it's basically this whole agent where you can just feed it in your prompt. And yesterday, when we took a look on the live stream, I had it build a whole interface for my community, had it build a Discord bot. We even built a 3D game. And so, what is powering Manus and these types of computer using agents are these underlying browsers and these types of environments that you need to configure. And if you ever tried to configure one of these, it gets really, really tough very, very quickly. Or if you do get them running, they run on your computer very easily. But by the time you want to get them to scale and do anything else as far as making any real apps, they kind of fall flat. So what I have featured for you today are these two cracked engineers from their own little startup, and it's called Scrapybara. And so what these guys here today are going to show us a little bit of kind of what this underpinnings of things look like, how you can build your own version of like Manus and actually deploy it and scale it really, really big so they can have people kind of starting using your app right now. So without further ado, what I'm going to go ahead and do is introduce the guys over at Manus. Hey, welcome, guys. Or over at Scrapybara. Welcome.
Well, hi. Great to be here. We're Scrapybara. I'm Nolan.
I'm Justin. And yeah, so what we do is we provide this serverless solution to host virtual computers. So we have Ubuntu and browser instances, and they hook up right to what we call computer using agents. So yesterday, OpenAI just launched the model that's powering their operator product called Kua into the API. And we've had the chance to work with them closely over the past few weeks to test it and provide first-party support on our platform, which means today you can go to computer.new and try Kua for yourself for free, launch it up on our instances, and you can see it working in real time. And well, from what we've seen, Kua is the best state-of-the-art model for GUI manipulation. So if you've seen like any kind of browser agent or any kind of computer use agent, Kua is going to be the best performing one.
Wow.
So as you can see here, we're on our playground. We can start an instance right here. So we have Ubuntu and browser instances. Once it starts up, we can start calling Kua right away. So we want to plan a trip to Japan, find stays, flights, and also if you can, write some notes in an HTML file. And you can see Kua gets to work right away. It's going to take a screenshot. It's like, okay, I'm on a Linux machine. It's going to open up the browser, and it's going to go.
Bro, this is crazy. So hold on. Just from going to computer.new, you say, I want to plan a full travel itinerary to Japan to see the cherry blossoms and the capybaras, of course, the capybaras, right? And find stays, flights, and write notes in HTML file. So literally, you didn't have to, like, this is part of your framework. You just can give it this type of prompt. There's no extra ridiculous setup, and you're already cooking like that?
Yeah. So this is actually built on top of our SDK, which allows anyone to basically call one of these computer use models like Cloude, like Kua, and it hooks on right onto our instances. And so it's basically a one-liner. You call scrapybara.act, you put in the prompt you want, and it will keep going. And this is like a fully production-ready framework we've been working on for a few months. So think like Vercel's AI SDK.
Right.
So we've developed it for specifically for these computer use models.
That is bonkers, man. So I've tried to play around with some of these things, especially the Cloude one, and like I find it just so frequently misclicks and stuff. So tell me a little bit more about kind of what you're doing here to make this as good as it is, and then like OpenAI basically featured this on their live stream yesterday, right?
Yeah. Well, so with the model performance itself, that was definitely an issue with the earlier versions. So the first major model of this kind to come out was Claude's computer use with 3.5 Sonnet. And as you said, that model was, it would sometimes misclick. It wasn't great at like medium to longer horizon tasks or planning. But then what happened after that was, I think, the labs really started to work more on this. And 3.7 Sonnet was great at computer use. It's an amazing model too. It's like, really good at medium to long horizon tasks. It's good at error recovery. And then OpenAI came out with Kua in the API. And this model is just, again, like even more amazing. It's fantastic at medium to long horizon tasks. It's great at, the part of these models that really impresses us is how good they are at recovering from errors. So when the model realizes that it's messing up, it knows how to go back and like put itself back on the right path. And that's just really mind-blowing there. And so what we provide through our APIs and SDKs is just like this unified format, this unified translation layer where you don't have to worry about the underlying specific outputs that come out of the models or that need to go into the instances. We handle all that translation on our end. And yeah, you can just plug and play with these models.
Wow, that's beautiful. Holy smokes. So to get started, what do I need to do to like basically start building my Manus clone?
Is it cool if we share another screen right
Sure.
now?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Cool. Let me share my
Cool.
entire screen here.
Awesome. Here we go. I'll put you back. Yeah.
Okay. Can you see the code?
Yes. Yeah, it's really easy to see.
Awesome. Yeah. So what we have here is a little demo we call wide research. So you've probably heard of deep research at this point.
That's right.
But the point of wide research is we can kind of have a bunch of agents do things at once on a bunch of computers instead of having one agent look at one website at once, kind of like what Manus does. And so this is all built on our Act SDK, and it basically breaks up the whole thing into a bunch of steps.
Wow.
So first, the task is very easy, right? So we want to go to find all the Winter 25 YC companies and then find how to contact them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we first send one model to go and look at the companies page and basically get all the companies.
Wow.
And then the next part is interesting. So we actually want to process the companies in batches. So let's say there's like 25 companies.
Yeah.
Then we'll spin up 5 companies at once using our SDK. So we start a browser, and then for each one, we'll go and find their contact information separately.
Whoa.
And the prompt is very easy. We go and find the best way to contact this company. We try their website, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
And how are you dealing with like CAPTCHAs and stuff?
Yeah, so like the way we've deployed it is these are instances running like basically your normal computer.
Wow.
And so it doesn't even run into CAPTCHA issues.
That's crazy because it's literally running an Ubuntu box on a server already configured. So you don't have to figure out how to configure Ubuntu yourself. And you're like, what is Ubuntu? I don't even know what that means. Basically, it's just a computer in the cloud. And can you tell us a little bit of background on how people used to like provision these things and set these up, from where we were maybe even like a couple months ago to where we are today?
So yeah, that kind of like into the story of how we got started on this. Cloud came out with their computer use model in October of last year, and that was a point where we were like really impressed by the model's capabilities, and it shipped with this like nice little local Docker container demo that you could use the model with. But then pretty much immediately when we tried to build something interesting with it, we ran into this problem where we were like, okay, so this works on my machine, I can run it locally with Docker, but what if I need to deploy this and scale it to like thousands or millions of users? There's no real like plug and play solution there to just provision instances that work well with computer use models. And we realized that this was going to become a bigger problem as more companies came out with computer use models to have this kind of unified infrastructure.
Wow.
And that was how we got started there. And now it's basically a one-liner. And a thing I actually would like to point out here that Justin almost like didn't even pay attention to because of how normal it's become to us. But a really impressive thing that we support in our SDK is structured outputs. So the way that we actually get this contact info and then first of all, get the list of companies and then loop over that and then extract this contact info is that in our SDK, we actually support structured outputs.
Wow.
So you can almost just use this scraping. You can ask the model to output this, information that it finds in a specific format. And we make this work with all the different kinds of models, like regardless of whether or not they're supposed to support structured outputs. But yeah, that works pretty well.
That is beautiful. So you've taken a lot of inspiration from like the Vercel AI SDK, where they have this structured output approach with Zod schema validation, but you're just baking that right in so that you don't have to do that. And that's gorgeous. That is
Yeah,
beautiful.
and we
Wow.
have this in TypeScript. It works the same way as Vercel's ASDK. We have Zod validation as well.
Oh my gosh, this is so cracked. So tell me a little bit about you guys. How did you guys get started on this project? And like, where are you from? Like, you know,
So yeah, we basically met while interning at this browser agent company last summer, and yeah, after that internship, we kind of just got together and decided to work on a startup ourselves, because for both of us that was like something we were super interested in, and we knew we probably wouldn't be working like in big tech or something for too
Mhm.
long. And yeah, we got into YC's Fall 24 batch. We pivoted through a couple of ideas, and then yeah, after Cloude's computer use model came out, like a week or so after that was when we pivoted to this one. This was the one that really felt right for us given our backgrounds and what the kind of stuff that we're interested in doing. And basically, yeah, that's how we got here.
That's amazing. Wow. It's such a cool use case. And I think the other question I had is like, how did you even get this into like OpenAI's like purview, right? Because they're so busy and they're always getting inundated. Like, how did that actually happen?
Yeah,
Yeah. Like this is actually something really interesting because like out of all the like big companies that we've tried to reach so far, OpenAI is one that's like surprisingly really fast to like respond, and like really, like I don't know, they're super responsive and like fast moving and like way more like a lean startup in that sense, like despite of how huge they are. Like that's why it's like pretty fantastic working with them.
Ah.
So yeah, we reached out, and basically like initially it was just for like early access to the computer use model because we wanted to see what all the different players in the field were up to, how good the models were, and so on.
Mm.
And from there, yeah, we just like we're like, yeah, we should support this first, like as a first party thing in our SDK and stuff.
Hmm.
And yeah, eventually in their Kua sample app repo, we're listed there as one of the options that you can deploy this with.
That's really, really cool. So for those who are just tuning in right now, if you wanted to drive something in an environment, you can basically start deploying this to today, like npm install Scrapybara, right? Or also like pip install Scrapybara and just start cooking. And then what's nice about it, like you're saying, it's deploying its own instance of like Ubuntu on the server. And so like you really won't have a lot of CAPTCHA issues and stuff like that. And so tell me more about like the security part, because I'm curious about, storing environment variables and login stuff. And if I deploy this, it's going to be my own container with my own instance running in somewhere in some cloud. And like, how should one think about something like that?
Yeah, so it's your own container. It's completely disposable. None of the stuff from inside the container is stored, after it's gone. We don't even store the like API keys or anything for like basically like anything that was inside the container is just gone. We have this feature called auth states,
Hmm.
where like which is another thing that some people are curious about how the security aspect of that works.
Yeah.
And what that is, well, auth states is just supposed to make like authentication easier.
Mm.
Like if you want to be logged into certain websites on an instance, like so
Hmm.
you can just like carry out certain actions. And that too is something where we like encrypt all the information before storing it, and basically it can only be decrypted with your API key and like when you use it on your instances. So yeah, the security aspect of it is something that we really like done a lot of work on over the past couple of weeks before this like huge Kua launch. And
Mm.
yeah, it's pretty rock solid there.
Wow. So a question from one of the live streamers right now is like, will I be able to scrape prices from Amazon?
yes. This is one of the things people did very early on with our platform. So someone built basically a bot that goes on a website, and every so often you can call a command on it. So it's basically running as a cron job. And
Whoa.
so it was able to track prices on a shopping page.
Oh my God.
And with our structured outputs with our Act SDK, we make it very, very easy for the agent to go and scrape data.
That's so ridiculous. So if I wanted to, so here's my problem. Here's my pitch, and this is probably one of my first use cases is that I have celiac disease, and so it's really hard to find restaurants that actually have like this specific things that you need to do. So a lot of times, if you're eating French fries, if they fry other things with flour in that same oil, I can get sick. And so a lot of times I actually have to call the restaurants in order to find out what this thing is. And there are apps that are out there that try to like, to do the Yelp reviews, but they're so inconsistent because they don't actually talk to the chefs. It's just people's vibes. And then the people who use the app don't have celiac disease. They're like, I feel fine. It's like, yeah, because you don't have an actual celiac disease. And so I want to basically, for my local area, I want to have like an agent that will just start searching around for these different places and then start generating a list of restaurants to call. And then I can use 11 Labs to basically, start acting as a voice agent to start calling and then logging this type of stuff so that I can, understand and basically build my own rich data set that actually has real data validated in real time from chefs or people. And then I can have a list of things that I can go back and either manually review or go to myself to the restaurant and just double check, because I want to find more places to eat. I love Asian Box. I love, State of Mind Pizzeria and some of these cool places that are around. But, I want to expand different cuisines. And like, I want to find Chinese food places because I do miss really good Chinese food, and there's a lot of cross-contamination in these areas. So I feel like something like this could be super helpful for me, where I'll get past a lot of these CAPTCHAs. I can basically run a Google search, right? And just going to feed up. It's not going to say, hey, we think you're a scammer or something like that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like websites like, OpenTable or like, Yelp or like pretty much anywhere else like they list restaurants and stuff are like pretty simple for us to scrape. That's something we've done a lot of testing on. And so yeah, this is definitely supported. In fact, like with this, you could go one step further and you won't be able to call them through our platform. But if the restaurants have like, email addresses, you could actually email them through our thing. So the agents are like completely capable of just opening up your, going to Gmail and then composing and sending emails for you. So that's one thing you could do.
Wow. This really blows my mind because I thought it was just going to take a lot longer to reach this type of thing. And I feel like the thing that you provide is that base foundation. I don't have to toggle these Amazon switches, these different instances to figure that out just by myself, and then to transfer the knowledge or to have other people maintain the code, for me to hand that off as a feature. I mean, there's a lot of technical. I think it's really easy for people to forget, as like when you're working with a team of people and then someone figures out how to do this, how do you get the rest of your team to like maintain the code? And that is usually what's the challenging part. But now if it's a framework, it's just easy to call. It's easy to make. You're just looking now at data sourcing and am I collecting the right data? Where is it failing? You're triaging at a higher part of the stack and not at the, actual connecting to the instances and these managing these states and what I call basically DevOps, in a lot of ways. I think that's really, really cool. You guys are really onto something. And so you recently just got YC, in the latest YC batch and stuff. And are you, what are kind of the next steps for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think to prepare for this OpenAI launch thing, we've been scaling up our platform a lot in terms of how parallel the instances can be, how many you can launch at once, how fast it is to get the instances launching. So when we first started this project, I think all of our machines were starting in like 30 seconds.
Wow.
Today, it's under a second to just like press start and it will show up. And this is like a whole Ubuntu desktop.
That is cracked.
And so we're going to keep working on, that all kinds of infrastructure front stuff.
Oh my
exposing
goodness.
more capabilities to the instances themselves is a big priority for us. A
Mm,
lot of people have asked to like have snapshots, basically storing the state so I can restore it, so I can have apps on it, preloaded. And so all kinds of these features we're going to be working on.
Interesting.
Those are basically two big like features that you can expect rolling out from us in the next couple of weeks. One is snapshots, like Justin said. That's
Nice.
basically going to let you create templates, reusable templates. And the second is that Windows instances will become generally available. This is a feature we have. We've limited it to a couple of testers because it's a little, messy to set up on our end right now. But it's something we're working on 24/7, and that will also be releasing like for general use pretty soon.
That's interesting. Yeah. So before we head on out, I just want to get a couple questions from the live stream audience because I know people are kind of urging to use this and they have some questions, and probably others will as well. So looks like Daniel says he struggled with all of the computer use models so far. So do you have any prompting tricks to, for any types of tasks? Do I need to be giving it numbered lists? I know you guys talked about your AI SDK or your SDK that's is already pretty good as far as like giving the instructions with structured output. So how would you maybe answer this question for Daniel and the rest of the folks?
this is actually a space that this is actually a thing that we wanted to talk about, that like even though the models have gotten like pretty good on our evals so far, is there's still a lot of room here for people to build on the layer on top of this and to actually make these into like usable apps. Because in order to get the models to reliably complete like really complex tasks and like build up really like complicated workflows,
Mm.
there is some work you have to put into the prompting there,
Mhm.
right? So like more and more is like, as we see throughout the rest of the programming and like developer industry, is that like programming is just turning into prompting now. And that is definitely the case when it comes to like building with computer use applications. You need to be good at like building that scaffolding, at decomposing your tasks into subtasks, verifying that certain subtasks have been completed.
Mm.
So those are like some of the main things that we focus on, like decompose into subtasks as much as possible.
Oh,
Like call act different times on like multiple times on the same instance. Try and get the instance set up, like uh, like pre-set up on some pages that you want to start with. All kinds of like these little. We
that's.
document a lot of
Mhm.
them in our in our docs,
Mhm.
and so yeah, there's definitely like a lot of like work that you still need to do on top of this to turn
Mhm.
these into like production apps.
So if you can go
We
to
provide
computer.new,
default
right? Yeah.
that like kind of work well with our machines, so that as soon as the instance launches, Kua or Claude has like a context of what's happening around it.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. I want to get to this one here from Will. It says, could you describe a couple of additional use cases that show the potential of this?
Yeah, totally. So like one like use case that we see in production like is basically there's this company that uses it to bridge together a multi website or multi app workflow, where like they have a platform, and every time a user signs up on their platform, they need to basically set up a bunch of stuff, like wrangle together like mailboxes and stuff, and set up the accounts in different places. And this is a process that needed to be done manually before, but they figured out how to like automate this to a great extent with computer use. And there's like all kinds of stuff like this. Another one that we see, which is pretty interesting, is people use these to in conjunction with coding agents for kind of like automated end-to-end, because this is something that you make a change to that you're working on, which is a full stack app, and you'd like it so when your coding agent like puts out a change, it's tested and like actually tested end to end and reviewed before it's merged or just like applied.
Yeah.
And that's something that's supported through our platform. You can literally just build the whole app in our instances and then have the agent test it, play around with it, make sure it's like the new features are working well before it goes ahead. That's another really interesting use case we've seen.
Wow. Wow. And then tell me a little bit more, because I was at that or the tree hacks thing at Stanford. And I think there's another interesting use case that somebody was doing there. If you can kind of expand upon that as well.
Yeah. So we actually got to sponsor Tree Hacks. It was a really fun experience. And so people were building on Scrapybara. And our winner was actually this team that took an open BCI, basically ECG brainwave reading headset, and connected to Scrapybara. And so basically they would think of a command, and it would go and open up a Scrapybara instance, and it would go do the command on the computer. So they were basically using their brainwaves to control a computer.
Bro, stop. That's so insane. So you're saying that these guys were able to take those messy brain waves and all the stuff that's just coming out, and then they launched the Scrapybara instance, and just they were able to figure out like a model or something that would kind of tie the two together to drive the UI.
Was utterly crazy. Like we saw that and we immediately knew, okay, this
Oh.
is our winner. This is our winner for sure. So they trained like their own classifier that would basically map from those brainwaves to text prompts that would work well with Scrapybara, like stuff like open the folder, or like open the browser, search this in the browser, click on this link, and so on and so forth. And all those commands, like your brainwaves can now map directly to those commands, and those
Jeez.
commands can be executed on Scrapybara.
That is absolute bonkers. I can't tell you how many more use cases that unlocks, because there are people dealing with dementia right now who want to drive a computer. They just know that they have to open an email or something. And the problem, I'm dealing with someone who has dementia and is going through these phases. it's hard for them to even launch mail now. They forget where it's at because it's on the next page. And so if this can understand that they want to launch mail, they just have to take things in smaller chunks and steps so the UI can just move on their device. And then it can start to like, tap that, right? If they're looking at a web browser, it can open up the Gmail, right? And then it can reply and it can have the intent and have the context and keep building on top of that. And so the reason why I bring this up is because I think there's a massive opportunity in like the baby boomer space where elder care and these types of people too, that if you can bridge these gaps for them and they have money, you have a massive clientele that you can just unlock. And to spin one of these guys up, you said takes you like not even 30 seconds, like a couple seconds and stuff. You have, boom, you're totally loaded. That's really, really cool. We're just getting started with this. I know you guys got to go and stuff. Where can people find out more about you and how can they get started with building with this?
Yeah, so to just try out the Kua model or try us out at all, you can just go to computer.new. So that's our domain. You can also go to scrapybara.com to check us out. But computer.new is the domain. And if you want to get started building with Kua specifically, we've put together a starter kit. And you can find that at computer.new/CUA.
Perfect. Man, the comments are going crazy. They're just like, this will be a $1 billion company for sure. Calling it right now, unicorn in the making. Yeah, man, if you're a VC and you haven't even heard of these guys, you are still so early. And reach out to them. I think your handle's at Scrapybara, right? Is kind of what you got going on. OpenAI, YC backed already. You already see where this is going. You see how powerful this is. And these kids are crizact. And I'm just so happy to have you join in. So I'll have to let you guys go for now. And we'll be happy to have you back on the show. And also, if anyone's building with this type of stuff, let me know. Show me any demos. Let these guys know as well. Because I want to feature you guys. I want to have people share back the knowledge of what they've learned using these tools, because we all have to build together and these things move extremely fast from month to month. This is kind of where it's going. And right now we're basically skating to where the puck is going, because this framework alone has unlocked many more use cases that now we need to go play and start building. So let's go ahead and do that, folks. Thank you so much for joining in. I appreciate you guys taking the time to kind of really quickly stop by, especially after doing like the demo yesterday with OpenAI. Massive W. And I look forward to, like seeing what's next and stuff. So check it out, computer.new. And thank you for joining the live stream. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Thanks for having us.
Take it easy.